Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Art of MMA. I'm your host, Mike Ginn. Of course, this week we're going to be talking about the and new, not just UFC 262 and Charles Oliveira, but also over in one. Brandon Vera's long 6-year heavyweight reign is over. We'll talk about all that. We'll break into some news, including why you don't try to break into Derek Lewis's car. But before I get to all that, let me introduce my co-host today. First and foremost, my man, always here with me every week. I'm talking about the mechanic, Brandon Cuttino. Brandon, what up?
Hey man, you know what it is. It's a Wednesday. Time to talk some.
You getting more comfortable saying Wednesday now? Now that you've done it twice?
Always.
Always, man. You've done it twice. And the other guy you see on your screen, another brand new face to Art of MMA. I'm talking about Dan Bakley. If you know him, you know Cage My IQ, his show. We'll definitely talk a little bit more about that later and give him a chance to promote that. But Dan, thanks for doing our show.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You got two Jersey guys and a Florida guy doing a show. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. But gentlemen, let's go ahead and get to it first. A couple things we want to talk about before the news. Brandon's got the tea. I got the tea. Another guest we got to get a tea to. Talking about artofmma.com/shop. Promo code above me. Do Bronx, in honor of Mr. Oliveira and his long journey. Save 20% this week. artofmma.com/shop. And then Brandon, what are they supposed to do to every video?
Like and subscribe and comment. Leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, Dan's one of the people that comments the most. So you guys got to comment now and tell what you think about him. What you think about Tim last week. Let us know. We're also going to do a new legend shirt coming up. Brandon actually gave me a great idea. I've been kind of working on it this week. Didn't quite get it finished in time for this show. So hopefully for next week's show, we'll have a new legendary tee out as well in the shop. So, gentlemen, let's get to some news this week. This week in MMA, right off the bat, July 24th event. I believe it's still going to be in the Apex, but they have not actually named it. They're calling it a fight night right now. Originally, the main event was supposed to be Heinisch versus Imavov. That may be changing because now they just re-announced Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw, hoping that TJ Dillashaw stays healthy through fight camp this time and gets to the card. And then another fight they just announced for that, Brandon's teammate, Julio Arce, back in the cage finally since, I believe, 2019. His last fight got canceled because of COVID. If you check out Dan's show, he actually just interviewed Julio not too long ago. So check out that interview. It was a lot better than the one I got to do with Julio because Julio didn't know. I didn't know. He had COVID at the time he did his interview. He actually, unfortunately, got tested positive the next day, and you can kind of tell if you go back and look at it now. He was a lot more aware with you, Dan, when you guys did your interview. He was a lot more fun and personable. I was like, where's that Julio? Why didn't I get that Julio? So I'm going to have to get Julio back on and get him talking about some of that stuff too. In other news, John Jones and Dana White have been going back and forth since Ngannou won the title, right? And I'm going to bring you guys in on this one. Dana said if John doesn't fight this summer, he can enjoy a long layoff. I'm not in a rush to sign him and fight him anymore. John Jones is like, it's a nice break for me. Dan, I'll start with you on this one. How many more breaks did John Jones need? Because I'm pretty sure during his first suspension, his second suspension, now his move to heavyweight, he's had quite a few breaks in his nice little career that he has going. Don't get me wrong, one of the greatest to ever do it. But when he does it, what do you think of this whole situation?
Well, I know that he just basically fired his agent.
Yeah,
and now he's looking to hire a new one. So I think part of that had to do with his agent not doing his job. But then I feel like both guys need to somehow meet in the middle because I know it has to do with money because, of course, Dana White's been under fire for not paying his fighters enough. But then at the same time, John Jones, he's a big name. He's undefeated, except for that one no contest. He's the market name. But then he hasn't fought. He's been in trouble with the law many times, and then he's got in trouble. He hasn't been reliable enough to stay on the roster and fight. That's why he's not, even though he's the number one ranked fighter, he's not on any rankings because he hasn't fought in a couple of years. He's probably fought 3 times in the past 5 years. He needs to just get on a consistent basis with fighting before he should be asking for the amount that he wants, which I think it's like $30 million. And I think
Yeah,
for
the
Dana
number
White
keeps
to offer
floating
him,
around, but nobody really knows. Yeah.
yeah. But for him to offer 10 million, I think it was pretty good. But I feel like maybe if Dana White offered him 15 to 17 million, maybe they can meet in the middle and somehow agree on something so he can get in the cage and then get fighting, because that's what he's there for. They market him to be that guy, the number one guy, and you can't be that guy if you're not fighting.
Brandon, Dan brought up a great point. Even when he does fight, he's not necessarily reliable. People remember the Daniel Cormier fight that he won, then got turned over to a no contest because he got popped and then suspended, and then Daniel got the title back, for another reign. Even if he does fight, he's not necessarily reliable, right?
I mean, you can say the same thing about the Diaz brothers. I think it's just one of those things where it's like Dan said, he's the name, man. People still want to see him fight. Either people want to see him get his butt kicked or they want to see him win if you're a John Jones fan.
Isn't Dana's biggest fear that, say he beats Ngannou, and then what happens if he gets suspended again and then the whole heavyweight division screwed up?
I mean, I want to say, man, dude, that's the fight business,
That's actually an angle. That's actually an angle we haven't talked about.
Yeah, because I mean, also too, like you think about that. Like, I mean, I think about I want to say I think about all the time. But you look at somebody like Conor McGregor, but he wins a belt, but he's never defended a belt. So to me, it's like, what's the difference? But they still promote Conor. They still let him go out and get these big money fights. John Jones just wants to do the same thing. But at least John Jones has defended his light heavyweight title belt. And my thing is too, is to me, Dana White and them asked him to go up to heavyweight. And they said, all right, if you do this, you got to drop your light heavyweight. He did it, no problem. He wants to be compensated for it. Like I said, man, me, man, prize fighters, they want to get their money. That's what we are. We're prize fighters. He wants that big prize now. It's time for him to get paid for it.
I mean, we talk about money, and that's a perfect segue into the next news story. But the difference between John Jones and Conor McGregor, in my opinion, is that Conor does more to promote fights than John does, because John is not afraid to call people out, but he's also like Conor does all the promotional tours. Conor shows up for everything. He gets in scuffles, but he doesn't, have somebody throwing a shoe at him. Conor does all these things, but he shows up. And when
he did throw the dolly, though. He did throw the dolly
and a water bottle. But
right.
But he shows up. And that's the thing about John. John kind of stays to himself out in New Mexico. He's not really showing up for a lot of stuff. He does it through Twitter and through a keyboard. He's almost a keyboard warrior, even though we know he's one of the baddest dudes on the planet. It's a little different situation. And I don't even know, Dan, if the management had anything to do with it, because maybe he wasn't getting the money he wanted. But that's the same management company that just booked Masvidal on a big-time main event against Usman. Like, they've gotten him paid now twice. So the money's there. It's just not the way John Jones wants that money, or at least what he was expecting. The other kind of story that kind of segues in is that Jake Paul is more open, even though Dana White keeps saying, stop calling me. I don't want to talk to you guys. Turns out Jake Paul is actually a free agent. He doesn't belong to Triller. He just happens to work with them and, cohort and make that money. But Jake Paul could show up in UFC tomorrow if he wanted to. Jake Paul can show up anywhere he wants because he's technically a free agent. He does it on a per fight situation. But it goes to what you said about the pay scale and Dana not paying people. Jake Paul is actually out there trying to get some of these guys paid. We look at it as a clown act. We look at it as a circus. But do you think he's going to end up getting some of these guys actually more money?
I think he will, but I think his angle with the whole pay scale thing is publicity. I think with him being a YouTube star, he needs to get the viewers. He needs to get the eyes on him. There's a reason why he went to the UFC event a few weeks ago, and then they had that confrontation. He came out and said, I told Dana Cormier not to do anything. And then he came over and did a confrontation with me, and it just made me look better because it was polarizing. It got people talking about Jake Paul because he was at a UFC event. And I think he's using the pay scale for his own good. It might look like he's trying to help the fighters, which the fighters do need to get paid more, and he probably is thinking that they need to get paid more. But I think in Jake Paul's eyes, it's going to be a benefit for him to use that because it's going to lead to something in the future for him.
Yeah, Brandon. So this is my question. Like he shows up at the Floyd Mayweather event, right? Steals Floyd's hat. He's doing the Conor McGregor. Like that's what he's doing. You're just talking about he's doing the Conor McGregor. But we've already seen with Tony Ferguson campaigning, they went up to $75K for bonuses for an event. You see with John Jones campaigning that all of a sudden Derek Lewis is getting like $8 million for a fight that he was never going to get before. Because even though Derek says he'd do it for $8 million, I'm pretty sure Derek would fight Ngannou for $8. Like he doesn't care. He just wants to get that. He wants to get in there. I don't even know if he cares about the title, if we're being honest. Do you think this whole situation leads to fighters getting paid more? I mean, prize fighter, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope so, and you would think so, but you never know with the UFC. I mean, like I said, they just went public, so you would think that maybe that would help. But I think the only way fighters get paid more is what happens with the antitrust lawsuit. I think when those sealed documents get opened up, I really want to say I think that's when things will get changed. Now the thing is though, we talk about fighters getting paid more, but really what we're talking about is fighters getting paid more in the UFC. Because to me, Bellator is paying people pretty well, and I think the PFL is paying people pretty well. Great. Exactly, and so is one. So really, man, all we're talking about right now is really the UFC paying people more. Now, yes, the UFC does give out bonuses, but why is it that they give out bonuses? Maybe because they know that their fighters aren't getting paid enough, and they want and that bonuses adds a little extra, money for them.
I mean, we all know I'm not on Dana White's Christmas list, but if I had to play devil's advocate, I would say it's similar to me like the NFL versus NBA. The roster that the UFC has is way more expansive than any of the other promotions. In every single division, they have a complete roster. Like you have a highlight of fighters in almost every single other promotion. But the UFC from top to bottom has the largest promotion in the world as far as just roster size. So in order to pay all these people to have the contracts as everybody, there's only so much really that can be allotted. Could they pay more? Absolutely. We all know they can. But from a business standpoint, I'm not sure it's necessarily the smart move as long as they still have fighters lining up, knocking at the door. As soon as Dana calls, you want to come fight for the UFC? Yep. You want me there tomorrow? Yep. I'll be there today. Like that's how they look at it. So I don't necessarily know if it'll change. I mean, I remember Ken Shamrock and them going to war with the UFC trying to get more money back in the day and how that ended up. Last time we seen Ken Shamrock at a UFC event. And, UFC won. So Hoist Gracie, another guy. When was the last time you seen Hoist at a UFC event?
I was going to say Ken Shamrock is hanging out in Impact Wrestling right now. He's doing his wrestling thing again.
And TikToks. He's putting his kid to sleep. Last bit of news, speaking of Derek Lewis, I don't know about you guys. I'm not going to sit there and put any criminal history among anybody out in the streets. But if you're going to carjack somebody, maybe not do it to probably when he's not like cutting weight for a fight, like maybe close to 300-pound big black beast named Derek Lewis. Didn't turn out well for the carjacker. The video is available everywhere online. We'll probably put it up on Art of MMA later of the arrest. But basically, the story goes, tried to break into Derek Lewis's car. Derek Lewis caught him, knocked him out, held him until the police came. And then there's the arrest video of the guy getting carried away, definitely not having his feet underneath of him because he was knocked out by now the number one contender for the UFC heavyweight title, Derek Black Beast Lewis. So that's the last little bit of fun news. Guys, you ready to talk about some fights?
Let's do it.
Last week's picks are in, Brandon. You did okay, but not as good as somebody. We'll be interested later on to get Dan in our picks rankings. Get him on a few times. Maybe we'll get him qualified for whatever prize we come up with at the end of the season. Sad that we couldn't get Alex on the show today. We were supposed to have Alex Soto. We're going to get him on soon, but he's still undefeated at 2-0. We had to put an L on his record eventually because, we love Alex, but his head gets kind of big. He keeps winning, all the damn time. Tim Wheatley last week went 2-3. Brandon went 3-2, and your boy went 4-1. So, it's all good. Let's go ahead and talk about some of those fights. One had their Dangal event last week on the 15th. It was kind of done early in the morning, I guess late night Friday, but aired early Saturday here. I said this from the beginning, and I think I was the only one on the show last week that picked Bhullar to win. Brandon Vera has been the heavyweight champion for 6 years. Brandon Vera has barely fought 6 rounds in 6 years. He hadn't defended the heavyweight title, I think, since 2019. He fought Ang La and got crushed. He didn't look like he was in good shape then, even though he dropped all the way down to 205 or 225, I think it is, for their light heavyweight. And then he didn't look like this time. He looked like he had a hard time moving left and right, which is something he usually does very well. Dan, you're our guest. I'll go ahead and start with you. What did you think of that fight? To me, it looked like, and even Vera said it himself, he just wasn't himself. He wasn't moving the way he does. But also, Bhullar came out and put the pressure on him. He put him down a couple times. He bullied him against the cage, bullied him up in the corner, and never really gave him a chance to breathe. What you think of the fight?
I did my preview last week and actually picked Bhullar to win. People don't know how quick he is as a heavyweight. Like, he's able to duck and dodge and move around pretty quickly for the weight class. And then the training partners that he's had in the past, AKA, have helped him out a lot. He actually got noticed by Cormier, and then Cormier lobbied for King Mo to bring him into AKA. So he's trained with him. He's trained with Habib. He's trained with Velasquez. And then the past year and a half, because of COVID, he's been training in Canada by himself. Yeah. And then he's been training lately with WWE wrestler Jinder Mahal, who's a good friend of his. So he's kept him in very good shape. And I just thought that his wrestling was going to be a big problem, his wrestling and then his movement. I thought he was going to be able to move around, keep Vera guessing. And then what he did was basically that. Like, whenever he took him down, it was easy for him to take him down. He weighed on him, put pressure on him, and then kind of wore him down. And then he was able to hit him here and there on the ground. And then when Vera got back up, the second round started, he just looked tired. He just looked tired because Bhullar is a big guy. He's a big guy. And then he caught him with a shot to the stomach and then a shot to the face. And then he just stunned him, knocked him back down on the ground, and then just ground pounded him. I just thought Bhullar looked ready. And then Vera looked like he was doing too much press. He had just come out with that video with John Cena where he was interviewing him. He was
The Rock?
No, it was John Cena and Brandon Vera.
I didn't see the Cena one. I know he did the one for The Rock for the last Fast movie.
Yeah, well, he did the one with John Cena for this upcoming. Yeah, and he's been doing a lot of press, and I think the movement to Sanford MMA might have hurt him. I think because he's been working with the guy that beat him, Unsung, since he moved there, and I think just not fighting as much as he should be probably killed him as well.
Brandon, that's another thing too. Talking about fighting, like training with Ung and people like that. Ung had the same problem against the Ritter, like stopping the takedown, stopping the wrestling. People forget that Bhullar was 3-1 in the UFC. Like, he wasn't a bum in the UFC. He only lost the one fight by submission. He got caught in omoplata over at UFC on Fox 29, that Poirier Gaethje fight. Other than that, he went through everybody in UFC as well, and then one just poached him as soon as his contract was up, and that's how he went to 1. So it's not like this guy was like coming out of nowhere. What you think of the fight?
I mean,
and specifically what you think of after the fight, because I know you were all about the call-outs.
So my thing with that fight was, like I said, they both were coming off the same long layoff. But the thing was, right, Brandon Vera had more experience with the long layoffs because, like we say, he's been the champion for like 6 years. He hasn't really fought that much, so he's used to the layoffs. Bhullar, we didn't know how it is that he would be. And then plus two, with last week with Tim's breakdown about how Bhullar fights, like you said, right, Bullar's a good wrestler, but usually he's standing bangs with people. So that was the reason why I thought Brandon Vera had a chance to win this fight, because I'm like, well, this guy's not going to wrestle him. He's going to stand and bang with Brandon Vera, and I think Brandon Vera was just going to catch him. But the fight happens, it's a different story. Bhullar pressures him, takes him down, beats him up. It didn't matter. And also, too, like you said, man, maybe Brandon Vera was doing too much press. Like I said, he just wasn't himself. He wasn't there. So, I mean, Bhullar did his thing. He's the champ. And hey, man, let those call outs roll, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, Brandon Vera is 43 years old, okay? He's been doing this a long time. We all wrote him off when he left the UFC, right? When he left the UFC, we were like, this guy is done. He lost a bunch of fights to like Shogun and Rothwell, and he was just getting knocked out left and right. He goes into one, he fights a bunch of, I'm not trying to dismiss the people that he fought, but these people don't even have Wikipedia pages. Like he just fought a bunch of people that nobody's ever heard of. He got 4 quick knockouts. All of them were in the first round. Then he fought got knocked out in the second round. He almost got knocked out in the first round against then took another couple years, and here he is back at heavyweight, and then he gets dropped again. I feel like Brandon hasn't been – sorry, not you, Brandon Vera, Brandon. I feel like Brandon hasn't been up to that level of competition in a long time. He was just protected by one schedule. And, he's a great ambassador of the sport. The truth has been around forever, but I really do hope this is it, and I hope he does start transitioning to other parts of the sport because he's really good at training. He has his gyms in Guam and San Diego. He's training with Sanford. He says he's going to come back because he's motivated over this. If he does, I mean, I'm sure they got some people that he could probably go through a couple more, but he's definitely going to have to be more active because being that inactive, there's no way he can compete with some of these younger guys that are hungrier than he is. So over in the co-main event, Brandon did pick this one right. Killer B got the win over Ritu. Knocked Ritu out of their upcoming Empower event. I got my thoughts on that in a second, but Brandon, I'm gonna let you go ahead and start with that one. You said B was going to get the win. I didn't know personally. There's a couple things I don't even, if I didn't know or I just plain forgot because it's been so long. I forgot that B was on Survivor. I completely forgot there was a big story about the female MMA fighter. I forgot that she was a Jackson Wink fighter. So she's not like some scrub off the heap. And she's also lost several very, very close decisions. Her record can be completely flipped upside down if she had gotten some of those decisions. Break down that fight for me, Brandon.
I mean, like I said, I knew B from her like Muay Thai days, because she would do Muay Thai, do kickboxing here and there. That's how I knew about her. But like I said, man, I just had a feeling that she was gonna get that upset win. She came out there, did her thing. It was a close fight because you could definitely tell when the decision came, her opponent was very shocked. She looked very unhappy, but that's what happens when you leave it in the hands of the judges, man. You never know what's gonna go. But I thought B had did enough to get her hand raised.
Dan, I thought B fought a fun fight. I thought she was active. I thought she brought the pressure. I thought Ritu was more technical. I thought she got the takedown. She got some of the more like cleaner shots. But I actually agree with the decision. I thought B just put more pressure on her, and I thought I love the way one does the decision. It's not per round. It's like this is what we thought the fight was. And what do you think?
Yeah, Ritu had her moments where she took her down in like the middle of each round, but then it would always B would get up and then she'd be the last to do something. She applied pressure at the end of each round, and she was just adding up the striking and then the pushing. And I think Ritu just did the takedown. She didn't do too much like B was. B was pressuring her minus the takedowns, and then that's what I think the judges noticed was she was the one doing more damage when she was attacking, because when Ritu would take her down, she wasn't doing too much with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about somebody who trains with somebody like Michelle Watterson. She trains with, high-level MMA. Like Jackson Wink has quite a few girls there now. They're starting to develop a nice roster. I mean, they were always known for the John Jones and Cowboy Cerrone's and Diego Sanchez's of the day, but now they transitioned to a more versatile roster, and a lot of people don't talk about Jackson as much as they used to, but especially when it comes to striking, like, the whole camp can strike. So I'm not really surprised now that I know a little bit more about who I was talking about. Ritu definitely has a lot of potential, but, she got knocked out of this upcoming Empower tournament. Hopefully they do give B the spot. I don't think they've announced who that last spot's going to go to now.
They put her in it.
They did. Good. She deserves it. And, we'll see what happens. Before I say my piece on something, you guys got anything else you want to talk about on this card, or does that kind of do it?
I thought the other fight on there, the Tawanshi and the Sean Clancy one, I can't believe that was his debut because he just dominated Clancy. And then a good note to know that they fought each other, I think, last year on like some regional scene, and it was basically the same thing. Like his defense is impeccable, and then his offense, he just keeps pressuring you, and then his kicks just keep you at range. So Clancy wasn't able to do anything. After the first round, he was bloodied up. His face was just bloodied up.
The whole fight, it was a bloodbath.
Yeah. And then he just continued it with the kicks, the constant pressure. And the third round, he kicked him. He tried to avoid it, and he still caught him. He didn't even catch him fully with it. He just caught him with like the tip.
He was done.
Yeah, and then he was done. That division's going to be, they're on cue right now. They better watch out for this guy now.
I'll say this much. Those Muay Thai fights they've been putting on, Brandon, before we take off, because I know you love talking about the striking. Those Muay Thai fights they've been putting on have been almost better than a lot of the MMA fights they've been putting on. Like we talked about Janet Todd. We talked about what was the guy on the first card?
Holskin.
That one, but there was also what's the guy who's like thinking about transitioning into MMA from the first one they had on TNT. That was better than both the Mighty Mouse and the Eddie Alvarez fight.
Rotang?
Yeah, Rotang.
Yeah.
Like just these Muay Thai fights they've been putting on have been just amazing. They've been awesome. I mean,
he's 24 and he's fought over 200 fights.
Yeah, and if he's coming to MMA, especially if he can work on his ground game and do all the other things, he's going to be dangerous too. So I'm looking forward to more from him. We don't have anyone coming up this week. They're on a little bit, I think 2 weeks now. They do the Empower event. My only protest, I'm all for women's empowerment. I'm 100% for it. We're even going to talk about Invicta a little bit later. But don't come out as a promotion and be like, we're the first major promotion in the world to do an all-women's card. No. There's been Invicta, who's also put a lot of women into the UFC, like Michelle Watterson, Jessica Penny, Cyborg. They were home to Kayla Harrison last year when Kayla needed a place to fight. Carla Esparza. The list goes on and on and on of all these women. Felicia Spencer, Vanessa Porto, which is the reason why they're having one of these fights this weekend. All these women that are in major promotions now, they were putting on shows back on Invicta, and Invicta's still going. So let's not dismiss Invicta. They've been doing their thing for a while. It's kind of like when WWE did their whole women's show, pretending like promotions like Shine and all these other ones don't exist that show nothing but great women performing. So let's not dismiss that. I am looking forward to their tournament they're doing coming up in Empower. We'll see how that works out. But let's not forget Invicta. All right, guys. This is what everybody really tuned in for this episode. Let's go ahead and talk about UFC 262. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into that main event. It's been a long time coming. That's why the promo code above is DuBronx. Charles Oliveira, Sergio, God rest his soul, me and Brandon, we both talked about it. He was Oliveira's biggest fan. We all were like play devil's advocate. We all were like, well, maybe this, the level of opponents, this and that. Especially after he went through Tony Ferguson, there wasn't really much doubt that Oliveira was the man. And I was actually shocked. Brandon, I'll start with you on this one. I was actually shocked how many people thought Chandler was going to win this fight. But I was also really impressed the way Chandler fought that first round. Because even after getting taken down and being in trouble, he got back up and almost finished Oliveira. So it was a great first round. The second round, it was exactly actually funny enough what our guest last week, Tim Wheaton, said about that check hook that Michael Chandler keeps getting caught by, that check hook. And Oliveira did it great against Tony Ferguson. He's done it great for a number of fights now. He learned how to do that. And it changed a lot of stuff he did. It dropped Chandler. Chandler never recovered. Brandon, what's your take on the fight?
I just think people just got on the Michael Chandler hype train. That's what it is, man. Either people weren't watching him in Bellator, or they were watching him in Bellator, and they just thought that he was just the best thing since sliced bread, and they forgot about the L's that he took. And I mean, man, the UFC was just pumping him up. If you look at basically like the first three embeddeds was basically all about Michael Chandler. They always had his face on it, as the screenshot, and I think they really were just kind of dismissing Oliveira. I mean, it maybe doesn't help that he doesn't speak English, so they kind of
doesn't
really
have Dana White privilege.
Yeah, Dana White privilege, But hey, man, it's like what I said.
God bless Tony Ferguson.
It's like what I thought. I thought that Oliveira would he would be better on the striking, that he would come forward, which is what he did in that second round. But kudos to Michael Chandler for getting Oliveira off his back, because once I thought he got him on his back, I thought, man, this fight's about to be over in the first round. But he was able to get out. He did hurt Oliveira, but Oliveira stayed smart. Usually those times like that, Oliveira would have been done. But again, though, we we've seen him grow, in these fights. That's what he did. He survived. Second round, came back, caught him with that hook, finished him. Finished. He followed him up, didn't let him get away, took care of business. Ref had to step in. Shout outs and new over here.
Dan, when he did that, like when he was on his back and when Chandler jumped back and tried to slam him and Oliveira just sank it in further in the first round, I thought that was it. And he got out of that and almost, I'm not going to dismiss Michael Chandler as a serious contender, because Chandler actually showed me a lot in this fight. What do you think of the whole thing?
I thought he had it, but I thought he made one bad decision. I thought instead of going down and get him into the clinch, he should have stood up and tried to get Oliveira up, or as he was kicking him, he should have tried to land some punches, but he went into the wrestling clinch, and I thought that was the worst decision, because then Oliveira was able to just keep him there until the end of the round, and he kind of lost that momentum that he had when he switched over from the rear naked choke that Oliveira was trying to get. He was able to turn over, and then he had the momentum there with landing some shots. And I think after that, after that one mistake, I thought Oliveira was going to capitalize on it in the second round, and which he wound up doing.
As much as I thought, as much as I was happy that Oliveira won, because I was rooting hard for him, nobody in that division deserves it more than he does. He's been in the UFC for well over 10 years. Like he deserves it. But Chandler almost, like, if it wasn't for the fact that the ref gave Oliveira a little bit more leeway, the ref could have stopped it when Chandler had Oliveira damn near knocked out up against that cage. Oliveira started throwing some up kicks and kind of got Chandler off of him long enough for that bell to ring. But towards the end of that first round, Oliveira was in some deep trouble. And for him to come out in that second round, calm, composed, I always joke offline that he looks like the self-help guru, Tony Robbins. Like if you ever look at Oliveira next to Tony Robbins, they got that same like steel jawline. Like anyway, that's sorry, Bronx, didn't mean to do that to you. But I think I thought the fight was exactly the way I played it out. Last week I think I was the only one that said this, that I thought he was going to knock Chandler out in the first or second round. I was holding pretty hard to that second round KO online, and I actually won a little bit of money because I actually put second round KO on Oliveira on a offshore betting site, which is legal here in Florida. And I made a little bit of coin off that one. So thank you, Oliveira, as I was the only one that believed you'd knock him out, and I appreciate that. You guys want to say anything else about this? Congratulations to the new champ. You got anything else to say about this fight, guys?
It was just nice to see that he was able to get the win after being in so long. It reminds me of Jan Hovich, another guy that they both started out in the UFC and not so good. They're kind of both 500, and then they both at some point just had it click, and then they both just went on tears, and now they're both champions. So it's nice to see two guys like that who've been with the company for a while be able to win like they both did.
I think I saw somewhere the only UFC champion right now in their 20s is Rose. Every other one is in their 30s. So that says something about figuring it out. It's great it's definitely a young man's sport. It's definitely great to like have that energy and strength, but sometimes you just have to take time. Even Usman says it. He's still evolving. He's still getting better. So that's a scary thought for some of these guys that are already on top. But great thing about MMA, you're always learning. Brandon will tell you right now, it doesn't matter how many trainings he goes through. You learn something new every time, and you try to add it to your repertoire and make it better. Over in the co-main event, speaking of Tony Ferguson getting everybody paid, I hope he did get paid because, unfortunately, Dariush just punished him. The reason why I did not talk about what's next for Oliveira and Chandler is because of this fight. We'll talk about it after this one for a reason. But, Dan, I'll let you go ahead and start. Break down this fight for me.
Basically, Darius started out from the beginning. He pressured Ferguson right away, went for the takedown. I don't think Ferguson was ready for it or expected it. That's basically what just happened each round. He would go dive right in, get the takedown, just pressure him, and just stayed on top of him. And it just seemed like Ferguson wasn't the same. But he really hasn't since that first fight that he had with Gagey, and he's just been slow. I've been skeptical of him ever since he started training with Freddie Roach, because he was at his best when he was unpredictable. You didn't know what he was going to do, and then he would just fear you into getting away from your game plan. But now you know what he's doing. He's putting heavy training on the boxing, and you're not going to be unpredictable if everybody knows that you're trying to improve your boxing and know that you're going to try and instill boxing into your game plan. So it takes a little bit away of that fear. And fighters are just like, if you're going to do that, we're just going to pressure you and take you down. And Darius matches up well against Ferguson. He's one guy that can easily take him down with ease. And then he just has a motor, and that's what he did. And I thought that end of the first round, I thought it was kind of funny when Darius went to say something to Ferguson and he pushed him. And I think that just motivated Darius even more. And he just came back and did the same thing. And I thought Ferguson made a bad decision when he was put into that leg submission and he didn't tap. I thought he should have tapped, but he was too stubborn because he wanted to stay in the fight. But I think long term that's going to affect him, because I don't know. I've heard that he tore a ligament in his leg. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
He hasn't actually.
I know there's damage.
He hasn't actually released it. He keeps telling people he's fine. He's refusing to release the information, so I don't think we'll know until Dana or somebody says something. But go ahead.
But I know from their point on, he was walking with a limp the rest of the way, and if that's major, that could be the end of his UFC career, because you're going to be out for a while if he needs surgery on that. And then he could have just tapped and then tried to get another fight or two and see if he still has it left in him to compete in the UFC. If not, he could have went somewhere else. But now I feel like he doesn't have it left in him. I'm still skeptical about the rest of his career, because the past 3 fights he's been dominated. And I remember this guy being just a machine towards that 13 fight win streak that he had, all the way up until the thing with Khabib, where it was rescheduled 6-7 times.
Yeah.
And I think that affected him.
Yeah, Brandon, we talked about that 2 years ago. All of us would have picked Tony Ferguson to win this fight. Now it's just a different era. I feel like he hurt himself 2 ways. One, obviously that submission, the heel hook, he didn't let go. He didn't tap out, because honestly, I think in Tony's head, he might know this might be it. He did say after the fight he's pissed, which means, maybe he'll come back and fight one more time. Dana thinks he's a little punch drunk from all the accumulation. But I'll throw it to you. What about the fact that he's more interested in laying on the ground than trying to get up? When he gets taken down, he immediately goes into these crab defense modes, which is great to keep from getting damaged. But he's not trying to get up and fight, and then he gets mad that he keep getting taken down. What if you're an opponent who can wrestle? Why wouldn't you just take him down if you know he's not going to really hurt you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think what it is, I really want to say it's from the Kevin Lee fight, because that's what happened. Kevin Lee took him down, but the thing was, though, he hurt Kevin Lee with his elbows, and then he was able to lock up that triangle choke. So that's why I think Tony Ferguson doesn't mind being taken down, because he thinks that he's going to hurt you with his elbows. What you see every time he gets taken down, he tries to throw those elbows, he tries to lock up a triangle or an arm bar. But with somebody like Darius, though, who is a jiu-jitsu black belt, man, he knows
he's not going to be in that situation.
Yeah, he's fine there, and he was comfortable. And my thing is we go back to the heel hook. You're watching it, Tony Ferguson showed no defense. He was not trying to escape. He just laid there. And he was just yo, dude, just go ahead and rip it. Just go ahead and rip it. Just go ahead and shred my knee. He offered no defense until the end. He was okay, let me try to kick him 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, once he got hurt with it, then he tried to scramble out of it.
Yeah, but to me, it's man, he looks like he's a done guy, because it's dude, somebody's trying to shred your knee. You're not doing anything to stop it. It's like you're just there. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Tony Ferguson. I mean, apparently, like I said, like you just talked about, he did just change up his training camp, because like his other fights, he had no coaches. He was doing his own thing. He didn't think that was working for him. So he went back, like he said, he got with Freddie Roach. He talked to Brock Lesnar. He talked to his other jiu-jitsu coach, tried to have those guys come and help him. It still didn't matter, man. Like I said, it's just, I think maybe people have just caught up to him, or it could be, man, where he just needs to go on a long layoff, rest up, heal up, and then come back, for like another fight.
The last thing I'll say on this fight before we talk about a couple things, what's next, and we'll talk about some other fights as well. Dean Thomas said it best. When Dean Thomas did his little excerpt in the commentary, Tony Ferguson, as a young fighter, when you're unpredictable, you can get away with those things. When you're an older fighter, if you don't have the fundamentals built in, you can't get away with the things that he used to get away with. I was kind of wondering why he didn't even go for the triangle a couple times when he was doing the heel hook behind Dariush's head, because he didn't try to throw up the other leg, but it was also kind of pinned at the time too. But my thing is this. For one, you're talking about the triangles. 10 years ago, that would catch almost everybody. Nowadays, I think that's one of the first things you learn to defend against in jiu-jitsu class. Like when you're a beginner in jiu-jitsu, don't get caught in this triangle. That's like 101. So nowadays, even people who don't have the most fundamental defense for wrestling and jiu-jitsu have that defense. Like they're looking out for it. People still get caught with triangles from time to time. We saw Justin Gaethje get caught by Khabib with the triangle. I mean, it happens. If you're good enough, you're going to get it. But it's not as common as it used to be. Guillotine's another thing. Like people used to get caught in guillotine, freak out, and not know what to do. Now many people know you turn towards the body. You try to relieve the pressure a little bit so you can get out. There's certain things that even when Tony, he had that reverse, I think he had a Darce choke hooked in for a little bit, but he didn't have the right fundamentals of where the leg wasn't on the right side. He wasn't putting the pressure the right way because he used to be able to get away with that a long time, but he couldn't get away with it against a black belt like Dariush, who's used to it. And, the best thing to come out of the fight for Beneil is two things. One, and this goes into what's next. One, he did get his Tesla from Elon Musk. If you ever want to know what happened with the call out, Elon did get the car to him. He got put off the waiting list and got his car. But the other thing is, with the Chandler Oliveira fight being so quick, Oliveira can probably turn around in a few months. We're waiting for Conor and Dustin to scramble out things. We don't know what the recovery time is going to be for those guys. Dariush jumped all the way up to, I believe, number 3 in the UFC rankings after this. So other than Justin Gaethje, there's nobody really waiting there for Oliveira to fight next. He could have just fought himself into a title fight. So I'll go back to the main event a little bit, guys. What do you think is next for Oliveira? Who's next up in line? Dan, I'll start with you.
That's a good question, because if you're Gaethje, you're like, I've been waiting to fight. I've been lobbying for a fight, and then for some reason, he's just not getting one.
Well, right now, he's the standby, right? He's the standby in case Conor or Dustin don't make weight or something happens, somebody gets hurt.
Yes, and I believe he was ranked 2. So he's right there, before he's the last guy to fight Khabib, and then he wanted to get one of these shots, and then he didn't get it. So he's been on a long layoff. But then Dariush, who I believe is undefeated in the UFC, has looked great in his fights, and he's been active. So I can see him getting it. You got people that are saying maybe they should have Gaethje fight Dariush, but I don't think they would fight each other because they're good friends.
He's got a couple losses in the UFC. 3 losses, I think. He's been in the UFC for a long time, but he hasn't lost in the UFC. Well, he lost to Hernandez in 2018, but then you got to go all the way back to Kise, all the way back in 2016. So, but he's on one of the longest winning streaks. I believe he's on
that's what it is.
7-fight win streak.
Yeah, but they're good friends. At one point, Gaethje was doing stuff for Dariush's wife when Dariush was training.
They won't fight each other.
Yeah, so that takes that out of the equation, even though they're 2 and 3. So then the only logical thing is if you have Dariush fight Chandler, in the meantime, because there's no one really else up there to fight, because you got Dos Anjos, who hasn't fought. You got Felder, who is basically part-time fighter because he does the commentating a lot now. And then you got Makovich all the way down at like 10, who instead of fighting in the top 10, they're having him fight a guy that's not even in the top 15. Because
Brandon,
I think
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because I think they're slow playing his rise since he's basically Habib's protege.
Brandon, who do you think's next, and why is nobody talking about RDA? People forget RDA came back last year against Felder, looked fantastic back in the weight class for the first time in a couple years. He's very much a contender. If anybody should get, I mean, I know he's kind of down there a little bit because he's behind that whole cluster of like Gaethje and McGregor and Poirier and so on and so forth. But if Gaethje wants to fight, RDA's sitting there ready. Darush wants to jump back in there. RDA's ready. I mean, we assume Oliveira can go in a couple months because he just basically didn't have that much happen, but he did take some damage in that first round.
Yep.
Who's next?
I mean, man, it's so crazy. Like, well, I don't think Dariush is hopping back in yet because, like I said, he's about to have his first child, so I'm sure he's gonna want to.
He talked about vacation with his family.
Yeah, you know. So I don't think he's trying to come back until fall time, or was he the one who has said fall or maybe next year? Was that
he said he was going to take some time for his family, but he also came out later when he got popped up all the way to number 3 because he jumped up 6 spots in the rankings.
Yeah.
When he came up all number 3, he said, "I'm ready if Oliveira wants to go." So
yeah,
he did call it out, but he also did ask for family time too. So I guess it depends
exactly.
on what he gets.
So like I said, I'm sure he's not fighting till the fall. Freaking Oliveira's hanging out in Brazil. They freaking just threw him a parade. He's probably pulling a Francis Ngannou. He wants to be around his people, celebrate a little bit, enjoy that. And to be honest with you, I feel like everybody's kind of really waiting to see what happens in the Poirier counter fight, and then that's when you go from there. Because to me, I would think Justin Gaethje would be next for Oliveira since he's just sitting there. Nobody really wants to fight him. Again, there's RDA as well, like you talk about. Nobody wants to fight him. Now, Paul Felder, he's ranked number 10, I believe. So I mean, he's really not in the combo. Same thing with like Dan Hooker.
Don't sell the Irish Dragon short, Brandon. He's ranked number 9.
All right, my bad. They must have changed it because I could have sworn I think last time he was 10. But yeah, I mean, I think I really want to say I think everybody's waiting to see what happens with Dustin and Conor, because to me, if Dustin wins, he's definitely next in line to get that title fight. So I think they might be waiting on that, and then next thing you know, whoever wants Conor can maybe get him, you know, and we'll go from there. Because in my head, if Conor takes the L, then I say Chandler and McGregor get a fight, because I don't think Conor really wants. I don't think Conor really wants to fight RDA like he did before. Like he just wanted to fight him for the title. I don't think he really wants to fight RDA.
Chandler would be perfect.
Yeah, and I don't think and Dariush is 3. I don't think he's gonna go back. So I don't think he's gonna fight RDA. Like I think what it is now, like I said, man, even with Makhachev, people aren't trying to fight back. They only want to fight forward. They don't want to help them chances to get to the title. So to me, if you're not ahead of them, they're not gonna really fight you. Unless they want to pull a Dustin Poirier and they want to grab a money fight real quick, which is Conor McGregor.
My whole thing is don't sell McGregor short. I think McGregor actually. First of all, both fights between McGregor and Poirier were quick. So if this fight's quick too, either one of those guys could turn around. McGregor's already said he wants to fight 2 more times this year. He's tired of being inactive. McGregor was winning that fight until Poirier turned the tables on him in that round 2. So let's not sell it short like McGregor can't turn around and do what he needs to do. If he can start checking those leg kicks, which is the number one problem he had that first fight, if he could check those leg kicks, and then that switch that Poirier pulled close to the cage where he got him in range, and there's nothing that anybody could have done in that situation when Poirier goes high volume. But that was the same situation in the first fight where he didn't have that switch and McGregor put him to sleep. So we don't really know what's going to happen in this third fight, and we're going to have a lot of fun breaking that down later when it gets closer to fight time for that one. So we're obviously stuck in a holding pattern. We have to fill the air and talk about something right here after this fight, but everything will kind of come a little bit clearer after McGregor and Poirier. But if Oliveira doesn't want to wait around, Dariush is right there for him. Obviously, Gaethje's right there for him. And people keep sleeping on Dos Anjos. Like, Dos Anjos looked great against Felder, and he's a former champ too. So don't sell him short. All his losses were at 170, not 155. So let's move on to a couple other things that happened during that fight card. First and foremost, speaking of picks and losses, Tim had picked the Chukagi and Araujo fight. He had picked Vivi. Unfortunately, what Daniel Cormier later referred to as MMA judging in the main event, because even one judge, I think, had Chandler win the first round 10-8, which was ridiculous because Oliveira actually controlled part of that round. So I don't know how you can give a 10-8. But the same judges gave Chukagi the decision against Araujo, and I actually don't agree with that decision. I thought Chukagi lost. Do any of you guys think that Chukagi won that fight?
The wife thought she won, so I'm gonna just throw that out there.
There you go. And what do you think? Who won that fight?
I think it's just crazy that the one judge gave her 30-27.
That was insane.
Like the first round, I felt could have went either way because they were both doing a little bit of damage. But then I gave that to Arroyo. Second round, Arroyo started out, and then she got the takedown. She held it for 3 minutes, and then she was hitting her in the side. So it wasn't like she was just laying on her. She was punching her in the side, here and there. And then she locked in that choke, which they called it the phantom choke, which we wound up seeing. She was just trying to reach her other hand. And then she got up.
Another Verdum tap out situation.
Yeah. And then she got up and Chukagi. At that time, she was tired. Arroyo was tired. And then Chukagi finished the last minute and a half with good striking. But I still felt like even though she outstruck her by 5 shots in the second round, I felt like it was kind of even. And I still gave it to Arroyo because of her having the takedown for over 3 minutes. I think that gave her a little bit over the edge. Just to shoot her over Chukagi. But I can see why they might go either way with that round because it was kind of close. But then the third round, Chukagi, I gave that to her easily.
Yeah,
she outstruck her by 20.
She finished strong.
So I gave it 29-28 Arroyo because I gave the second round to Vivian barely. I gave her barely. But I could see why the other two judges did it 29-28 Chukagi. I can see that. I'd be okay with that, but to do 30-27 Chukagi is just outlandish. It's
in my mind. There's no way Vivian lost that first round.
Yeah,
because she had the takedown. She was controlling the pace. Chukagi was still trying to find her reach, find her range, and Vivian was just everywhere on her in that first round. Didn't do a lot of damage, but she was definitely in control of that first round. The second round, like you said, it was control time, and if you wanted to give it Chukagi because she finished strong in that round, okay. But I still you win more than half the round. It's kind of hard for me to give you a round unless you do like major damage, and there wasn't major damage. And then the third round, I think Chukagi definitely did way more. But that wasn't a 10-8 round or anything like that. It was just 10-9. So 29-28, I think people will be like, well, maybe, but 30-27, Jesus Christ, what were you watching? The other fights we want to talk about real quick. Brandon, man, I don't know how to segue into this, but your boy, and we love Shane Burgos. We've interviewed him twice. We love Shane, Hurricane Shane, ever since CFFC. But your boy didn't. What happened?
Say it, man.
No, I want you to say it. What happened? And I want to say, pull back the tape from last week. What did I say was going to happen?
Hey. No, it didn't go down like that. It didn't go down like that. It didn't go down like I said it would go down.
I might even show a clip from last week before you talk.
It didn't even go down like that, how you said. But no, it was a good fight. It was a good fight. Saying I had it 1-1 going to the third, and just, hey man, I don't know what he got caught, and then next thing you know, the body failed him. Edson Barboza did it. He got his hand raised. Shout out to him, and like I said, I thought it was a good fight. Like I really think, like I said, man, Edson Barboza came out, he was using his kicks. Shane was pressuring him. He was using his boxing like how I said it would be. I really thought Shane was going to come forward, pressure him. use his boxing, which is what he was doing. The only thing is that, I mean, they even said it in the announcement because, should I say Shane's corner said it, but he wasn't throwing those combinations. He was only throwing like one shot because then you saw it, right? He would throw his jab, he would just throw his single jab, and then Barboza would counter him and catch him, with that. But then they said, hey, you need to double up that jab, which is what Shane was doing. But I just think he had to throw a little bit more combinations, to get the job done.
I'll say this before I kick it to Dan on his thoughts on the whole situation, because I mean it was just crazy. Like, he got hit. It took a few seconds for his brain to kind of register. That's why I asked Brandon actually off air if Shane was concussed. He says he doesn't believe he is, but to me it's like, and I heard a couple doctors talk about why this happened, and it's usually because your brain kind of like rattles around. When he sat there and took the shot, his willpower was like, I'm going to keep coming forward. Because Burgos is very hard to stop. His willpower is like, I'm keeping going forward. But when he did the left and right moving his head, it kind of rattled the brain, which was already damaged, and shut him down. Evidently, if he hadn't moved his head for a few minutes and just kind of stayed normal, he wouldn't have fell. But because he did, the doctors say that his brain trauma from that punch with the rattling actually triggered the knockout, which then you later saw his body go limp and he fall back against the cage. I don't think I've ever seen a knockout like that. But before I kick to Dan, I want to say this one thing. And Shane Burgos does not have to be in the wars that he's in every single fight. I mean, yes, Barboza lands some of the cleanest shots you see in MMA. He's one of the best strikers, especially in those weight classes, 145, 155. Burgos has some of the best offense, especially in the 145-pound division. But he has no defense. He's willing to get hit to deliver a punch. And when you're going against a Barboza or somebody like that, you're going to get hurt. I swear, like, I can't tell Shane how to train. He's a lot better fighter than I am. I'm sitting here, in my chair talking about it. But I swear to God, I think he should spend a whole camp just on defense, not getting hit. He is so willing to get into, quote unquote gunfight every single fight. You see it against, Josh Emmett. You saw it against, Cater and Cub Swanson and all these people that he's like, some of them he won, some of them he didn't, but he's just willing to get into these brawls. And it just puts too much risk. Like, he doesn't have any, like, he used to be a great wrestler when he first started out. I've never seen him wrestle in a UFC fight. Dan, what do you think about the whole situation? And then Brandon, I'll let you finish because I saw you question something I said, but go ahead. I saw
you just brought something up that I had in my mind. I was like, the commentators during the fight were like, he has his wrestling background and he never uses it. And I'm like, that might help him with his defense if he uses it every now and then to keep his opponent at bay. I don't know if he chooses not to use it or if it's just something that it like never happens, but I feel like he takes too, like you said, he takes too much damage. Like, he took a lot of damage. That Emmett fight was great, like fighting the night, but he took a lot of damage because he's the type of guy lately that he takes damage to give damage out. And in this fight, one of the things that I thought was alarming was the switch kick. He got hit with it 2-3 times.
Well, he blocked it a couple times too, though.
His side was all red. His right here on the left side, and then his leg was bad. Like, I said in the pre-fight preview, like, the way he leads with his leg to strike was just something that Edson Barboza was going to attack.
He has that boxing base.
Yeah. So he just kept kicking him with the leg. That snap kick by Barboza is just so quick that he just hurts people with it. Like, and then he threw over 40 kicks, and then each one just damaged Burger so much that I think it limited his movement. But then he was having a great success with his check kicks.
I mean, let's not forget that Burgos did, like, the announcers were all Barboza, but Burgos did a lot of damage to Barboza.
Oh yeah, like his kicks were doing almost just as much later on to Barboza and were slowing him down. But then he was kind of going away from it. I was like, just keep kicking Barboza. You're having a lot of success with it. But he kind of went away from it a little bit and went back to the boxing. And then, as you were saying, with like when he got hit and then delayed reaction, most of the fight he had that poker face on where it was just like business, all business. I'm not showing them that I'm hurt. And I think it just wasn't processing until, like you said, when he was moving around, because he was telling himself, I'm fine. But his brain's like, you're not fine. And then he just all of a sudden fell back and went into overdrive and hit the cage. I thought the fight should have been stopped there to protect him. But then
Barboza had to throw a couple more punches.
Barboza threw the one punch, looked at the ref, and ref was like, keep going. Then he threw another one, and then he stopped.
I don't think the ref knew what to make of it.
Yeah. I thought Barboza was like, what do I do? Like, I know he didn't want to throw it, but the ref didn't stop. So, I got to do it until he tells me to stop. And then it was just like, I wanted Burgos to win. Like, I like Burgos. He's a fun fighter to watch. I just felt like those leg kicks were going to be too much for him. And then the Barboza's improved boxing. Like, every now and then he would hit him in the body, Burgos in the body, and then hit him with the strike on the left side, and it had a lot of damage and effect to Burgos. But Brandon, I hope he recovers.
Brandon, before I let you answer the whole no defense thing that I saw your face light up for, I will say one thing about Dan. What Dan said was right. Those leg kicks that Burgos was throwing were doing damage, and if he had started that earlier, it might have been a completely different fight. But even though Burgos was landing the more heavy shots as far as boxing goes, Barboza was landing the cleaner shots. So I will give Barboza credit for that. Anyway, go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
Oh, man, all I was gonna say is just really to correct you guys. It's Shane. Shane was a jiu-jitsu background. He really was more of a grappler, not really wrestling, but like he would get his submissions. Like that was something that he had talked about in the pre-fight as well about him and Barboza both being both having jiu-jitsu, but they rarely use it. Now on your defense thing, yes, did Shane get caught with those leg kicks? He did, but then what had happened, he changed it up and he started moving his leg out the way, checking those. That's why Barboza's shin got cut, because Shane was checking those. So, and then also he adjusted, he adapted. Yeah, exactly. And then also too, you saw, like, I want to say, right, you saw Barboza really throw his kicks in like his spinning kicks, all this stuff like that. Like the only kicks that he really got that were really protected were those spinning back kicks, because I don't think Shane was really expecting those. But
he blocked those though.
But I think he was expecting, like, like the hook kick to come and everything like that. And then if you guys were watching the fight, which of course I know we all were, but you saw Shane throwing those front kicks at him, right, with his front leg. That right there,
once his corner said start putting them, he did, yeah,
because that right there, that is an offensive move, but he was really using that as a defensive way, because the thing is that kick goes straight, then a front kick will hit you before the round kick lands. So as that person's throwing that round kick, you kind of throw that front kick and you stop them, so that way they can't turn their hips, which is why he was doing that. And again, that is a defensive move. All I want to say is that if you watch some of his other fights, like Shane has good head movement, right? He tries to slip and then he tries to counter. He doesn't really kind of like use his hands.
But he stays in the box.
Yeah. But
he slips and counters like he's a boxer, but he's staying in the box when people can throw more than just punches.
Yeah, but most of the fights that he's been in, that's what they are throwing is just hands. Nobody's really kicking except for Barboza. That's the only person. But again, though, like I say, he wasn't doubling up that jab. That's the only reason he got countered. But yeah, man. I mean,
I think that was Barboza's fault though, because when he was throwing those jabs and other stuff in the first round, Barboza, when he would counter, would catch Shane every time, like clean. I don't know what's going through Shane's head. I mean, that's a different level. Like, I'm not trying to get in his brain, but what I mean by no defense is he keeps putting himself in these wars, Brandon, because he's willing to exchange with you. It's not that he doesn't block. He blocked a bunch of head kicks from Barboza. He faded away when I think he should have actually jumped in, but that was just me obviously sitting outside of a cage looking into it. In the middle of a fight, you do what you do. My point was that he stays in the box. He stays in that box and he wants to be right in front of you and pressure you, which is great. But a little movement to the left, a little movement to the right, changing levels with a takedown from time to time. Especially against somebody against Barboza, you don't have to go to the ground with him, but a simple takedown, get back up. It just changes the entire dynamic of an MMA fight. If it was boxing, I think Burgos would have a hell of a career. But I think until he gets a little bit more, he shows more of what he can do. I think he's going to have trouble against some of these top guys that can put him to sleep. But you know more than I do. You see him working out. You see him training. But I like Shane. I picked him in my DraftKings because you got me to change my mind for a second, and he cost me money. But that said, man, I'm always a fan of Shane Burgos, and I do hope he has a full recovery and no after effects of what happened. Hopefully it was just a freak knockout, and it is what it is. Last couple things I'll talk about on this card before we get to make our picks. I was right, but I feel bad. I'm a fan of Jacare just like everybody else. Jacare didn't tap, and his arm went pop. And I said Muniz was the younger guy. I said he was a younger Jacare. I said that he was going to be the first guy to make Jacare submit. Well, in fairness, Jacare didn't exactly submit. He didn't tap, but he did get his arm broken. The ref stopped it. So I will say this. Muniz has a great future in the UFC. He's already like 31. He's not young, but he's a really good, talented grappler. He is like a young Jacare, so hopefully he can win a couple more fights and get a chance. But shout out to Jacare. Hopefully he has a full recovery. Talk about like Weidman just a couple weeks ago. When you're that age and you have an injury that badly, you hope they can recover pretty quickly and maybe finish the fight game on their terms. But you never really know. Do either one of you guys want to say something on that fight before we move on? No?
And I'll say one thing then. I was gonna say, man, like I just felt like Jacare had just got his arm stuck, like he couldn't get his arm out, and that's why he got his arm broken because it just looked like his arm was stuck, like he couldn't move it like where it was.
Yeah, I mean the dude did a great job getting him into submission, and Jacare thought, nobody's gonna submit me, I'm not gonna tap out, and then he didn't have a choice. It's like Tony Ferguson earlier or later in the night.
Yeah, I mean, Jacare is that guy that will let you break his arm. Like, remember, he did a jiu-jitsu tournament, and he actually let a Gracie break his arm so he could win the tournament on points. Like Jacare is just that crazy guy.
And who knows? It might have been the same arm. It might have been broken easily.
It was the opposite arm in the jiu-jitsu tournament. He broke his left arm. In this one,
it sounded bad though, man. It sounded bad. Yeah. Watching it live and then watching the replay, and all you hear is crack. Yeah, like, oh god, that's bad. That's like Frank Mir, Tim Sylvia. Other results. KGB Lee got in the win column against the other Shevchenko. Started fading, but then she got the triangle. Speaking of triangle armbar, she got that locked in. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good card. Bontorin was another guy I picked over Matt Schnell. Even though he came in late and really didn't cut as much weight as he needed to, he was actually only a pound over. People kind of overblow how much he missed weight. It was about a pound. He just didn't want to cut it more because he had already cut like 30 pounds or whatever to get down in the month to get ready for the fight. Matt Schnell was like, oh, he's lulling me to sleep. Well, he almost put you to sleep, Matt. So maybe you need to wake up a little bit. But anything else you guys want to talk about before we get on to our picks today?
I just think that Matt Schnell should have pressured him because he was taking on a guy who took the fight on short notice. He had trouble cutting weight. Man, that's somebody that he should have pressured because, like I said, they were going nice and slow. So that was the pace that his opponent had wanted because that way he could save his energy. Yeah,
I think the only thing stopped him from he just got caught every time. Every time Matt would come in, he got caught. His opponent had the cleaner strikes every single time. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and hop into some picks. We're going to start off with the return of Invicta. We're going to kind of breeze through some of these cards to get to the UFC this weekend. Mainly because I don't think there's a lot of question who's going to win some of these main events. But Invicta is back. They got their new deal with Access. Me and Brandon talked about that a number of weeks ago. Sorry to put my hand in front of my face as I was talking, like the amateur that I am. Don't laugh, Dan. You might not do it on your show, but I did it here. But Invicta's back. They're going to be streaming some of their stuff on the Fight Network. The other stuff is going to be on Access TV. Including the main card. Technically, it's Invicta 44. They're also calling it Invicta on Axis. It's going to be this weekend. The main event, it's going to be Karina Rodriguez versus Diana Torquato for the vacant flyweight title. Dan, you're our guest. I'll let you pick first. Who you got and why?
I got Rodriguez, of course. she's the more polished fighter in the Invicta. Torquato is technically making her debut, even though late last year she did a tournament that didn't count to your record, where she finished, I think, in the semifinal, I believe it is, where she lost to Deanna Bennett, I believe it is. But Torquato is more like a kickboxing submission grappling artist, whereas Rodriguez is a boxer, and then she has really good defensive grapple. And I feel like her opponents that she's fought have been a lot better. And I just feel like she's going to be too much on her feet for Torquato, and I feel like she's going to knock her out.
Now, Brandon, this is interesting too, because not only is Rodriguez getting the shot, almost similar to what Justin Gaethje is calling for, because she lost to the former champ Vanessa Porto in her last fight, but that was all the way back in a year and a half ago in 2019, before Porto went over to Bellator and won her fight. So who do you got in this fight? Do you think it's going to be Rodriguez's time, or you think Torquato is going to pull off the upset?
I actually agree with Dan on everything he said, man. I got Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez is like you said, the more polished fighter. She's the well-known fighter, which is why she's the one getting the shot again. Because to me, I think their flyweight division, they're probably looking around saying like, who else is there that is deserving of this championship?
Yeah, I don't think it's a very deep division. The problem with Invicta that they have now is that so many girls are going to Bellator or going to PFL or going to the UFC. They're obviously a feeder system for the UFC, especially the last few years with the Fight Pass deal and everything like that. A lot of UFC's women have come from Invicta, especially the lighter divisions. That said, I think Rodriguez does finally get it done. She lost to just simply a better fighter in a decision against Porto last time. Porto's a very underrated fighter. A lot of people don't know a lot about her. But I think the more she's in Bellator, I think she'll make more of her name if she has more people to fight there. But, we talked about the UFC and their depth of all these divisions. And when we were talking about the pay scale earlier, they have a lot more flyweights too. They have a lot more atom weights. They have a lot more of all these different divisions because they basically stole everybody from Invicta. So unfortunately, Invicta trying to tread water. But I think it's going to be a fun fight, and I'm picking Rodriguez as well. Over in the co-main event, this one is a title defense. Zapatella's defending against Delboni. Brandon, I'll let you start with this one. Who you got?
I got Ann Still, Zapatella. I've been a fan of hers. I like her game. I like the way she fights. She goes in there, goes hard, does her best. She has takedowns. She tries to ground and pound you. She wants to smash. That's what she wants to do. She wants to smash you, and I'm a fan of people who like to smash others.
Dan, who you got?
No, I'm agreeing with him. I got Zapatella, and as she's fought, her striking has gotten a little bit better each time she gets in there. Delboni has a pretty good jiu-jitsu game. That's what she's known for. Usually she would want to get her opponent on the ground, but I think in this, it would be a mistake to do that with the wrestling background of Zapatelli. Even though Zapatelli is a little small, I still think going to the ground is bad for Delboni. So I think Delboni is going to want to stand up and trade with Zapatelli, but I just think Zapatelli is going to be too much. He's going to take her down, ground and pound her. I don't think it'll be a knockout. I think it'll be a decision victory, but I think Zapatelli will dominate.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Zapatelli get the submission or stoppage. I'm picking her as well. The only reason is that the only opponent that they really have in common is Ashley Cubbins, and she just got stopped by Zapatella in the fourth round by submission, whereas she actually beat Delboni. So I'm going by similar opponents. They both have pretty good records, 8-2 versus 10-2. I don't know a lot about either girl, but I'm going to stick with the champion only because I do feel that she has the better competition that she's fought as far as her opponents go in the resume. Not much really else to be said about this card. A lot of girls fighting this card. There's 4 other fights. They're 2-0, 2-1, 1-0, 0-0. So a lot of girls kind of making their debut. A lot of them having a chance to get their name known. Invicta kind of cut their teeth a little bit and hopefully fight on to bigger days. Invicta's trying to make a renewed push. They sold out to they didn't sell out. They sold to Anthem Sports, who also famously used to own Impact Wrestling as well for the wrestling fans at home. Sorry, Dan. it's kind of a running joke between me and Brandon when we talk about other things other than MMA. Like the one time we asked for feedback, somebody said stick to MMA, and we're like, well, this is not who we are. We're going to talk about what we want to talk about. And if you tune in, we love you. You're our best friend. And if you don't, sorry. Tune in next week. We might talk about MMA only. All right, guys. Anything else you want to talk about Invicta before we move on?
Look, I'm just kind of looking to see how Access does it, because usually Access is known to kind of always do the same thing. Like when they had LFA, when they had CES, you know, it was kind of the same all production. So I kind of want to know if they're going to do things a little bit different.
All right, guys, let's move on to Bellator 259. I think here we might actually get a couple different picks, not in the main event, but maybe in the co-main event. Dan, I'm going to go ahead and start off with you. Cyborg is back. She's rematching Leslie Smith. The first fight wasn't that competitive. I'm not sure why there's a second, but I guess they just need somebody to step in the cage and take a beating from Cyborg. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. My pick is Cyborg. I'll let you guys break it down. Go ahead, Dan.
The first time they fought was crazy because instead of seeing her knock somebody out, she submitted Leslie Smith. And I think the mistake that Leslie Smith made in the first fight was she tried to stand up and trade with her. I think this fight, Leslie Smith will try and use a little bit.
She knocked Leslie Smith out. The only person she ever submitted was Blencow in her last fight.
Okay.
She knocked Leslie Smith out. She knocked her out quick in the first round.
You know what? I see what I did wrong there. Yeah.
You were thinking of Blencow.
Yeah, Blencow. But I don't think Leslie Smith should stand and trade with her. I think she should try and get the fight to the ground. And I think that's her best chance of having any shot at winning by decision. But I just feel like Cyborg is going to knock her out again. I think she's just too much power in her. Even when she gets taken down, I feel like she can move over and get on top of Leslie Smith. Just like you said, I don't know why she's getting this shot, but I think it was a mistake, and I think it's going to be a quick fight.
Brandon, just lack of depth in that division is why she probably got the shot, but only the last three losses Smith has are to the three best people in that she's fought. Jessica I, she got knocked out. Cyborg, she got knocked out. She lost a decision to Blencow, who just lost to Cyborg for the first time ever by submission. What do you think?
This is a Cyborg showcase once again. You know, she's gonna dominate Leslie Smith. Move on. Say, man, like, to me, if you're in Bellator, you know what it is. Everybody wants to see her, Cat Zingano, but we're just waiting for Cat Zingano to say when she's ready. So
that's pretty much the only fight left.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be Cyborg, and it's going to be total domination.
Unless Marlis Conan comes out of retirement or something, I think that's pretty much it. Or they do ever work out a cross promotion deal with either Kayla, Carissa Shields would be fun because of the boxing, and then of course Amanda. But that's never going to happen. UFC is never going to do a cross. That's like asking, like, people joke about here. I'll throw another wrestling thing out there. People joke about how AEW is doing all these crossovers with, Impact in New Japan, and they're like, and Triple H said WWE is open for business, but does anybody really think Vince is going to have a crossover promotion with, AEW or Impact or anything? No.
No. You do have to admit, Vince did do it one time with ECW, though. He did do it one time with ECW.
He bought ECW.
Later.
No, he was already feeding them money. He was the bankroll for Paul Heyman.
He was. You're right.
Anyway, enough said about that. We know Cyborg is going to probably roll through this. It's a fight. Anything can happen. That's why we watch. But it would take nothing less short of a miracle for Leslie Smith to pull this one off. The co-main event is a lot more competitive. We're talking about Darian Caldwell, former champion, and going against just a guy skyrocketing up, Leandro Higo, who just had that fight that pretty much was most talked about against Bandejas, where he subbed Bandejas with the rear naked in the second round. We talked a lot about that fight before it happened last time. Brandon, I'll start with you. Who you got in this fight?
I got to go with Darian Caldwell, ex-champ, New Jersey native as well. I think his wrestling's going to be too much. I think he's going to take him down, ground and pound, and I probably really see a decision victory for him.
Even though he got crushed out by AJ?
Hey, that's AJ McKee.
Oh, here you go. There's that guy. Dan, who you got?
I got Caldwell too. Like in the AJ McKee fight, he was doing well, and then his Achilles heel is just that guillotine choke. He's tapped out to it several times. McKee was on his back and got the choke on him, and that's how he lost. But he got him down. I think Higo's going to look for open spots to try and get a submission on him. But I think with Caldwell he's 5 pounds heavier and the wrestling background, I think that might be too much. I don't think he's going to knock him out. I think, just like he said, I think it's going to be a decision victory where he lays on him, throws strike in, and he just wears him out.
I'm glad y'all picked that so I can get a win this week. I'm taking Higo for everything Dan just said. The Achilles heel for Caldwell is the submission game. Higo's, for as exciting as Higo is on his feet, he's got 12 subs. Yeah, he's one of the Pitbull brothers guys, so he can fight you, but he's also a submission guy, and he's got 12 subs, including his last couple fights, one of them being against Bunch with that said guillotine. I think he's faster than Caldwell, and I think he's going to, if it goes to the ground, I think he's going to wrap him up, and Caldwell's going to be night-night. If it stays to his feet, I think he's strong enough to stay on his feet. You know, like he said, he trains with the Pitbull brothers. He's not afraid to strike with you, but he can also grapple with you, and I think Higo's going to definitely take this one. A couple other fights on that card that people might be talking about. Sorry, I just pulled it away for a second. Vanderpool 10-0, his perfect record against Fabian Edwards is something to look at. Former UFC guy Jaleel Willis is back in there against Mendonca. Christian Edwards is one of John Jones' proteges. He's putting his undefeated streak of 4-0 against Ben Parrish. As far as other people, and then everybody's favorite, shake that ass, Valerie Lareda. You sleep on her, she's going to beat you. She's actually a very talented MMA fighter. She does like to have fun on, Instagram and everything else, and I think she's missing her boat by not making some money on OnlyFans. But she is actually a really good fighter. She's training with Masvidal and all those guys down there in South Florida. She's going to be a good fighter for a long time. She's finally back in there. Oh, and I almost forgot Tyree Fortune, the younger brother of Terrell Fortune. He's 5-0, going to Grant Neal 5-0. So somebody's gonna have to get a loss in that one. Dan, any other fights on that card you're looking forward to that you really want to see this weekend?
You mentioned it, but I'm looking forward to that Vanderford Fabian Edwards matchup, aka what they call Paige Van Zandt's husband versus Leon Edwards' brother. They basically done that. I think it's a pretty good style matchup. Of course, Vanderford's going to try and use this wrestling to get the advantage, whereas Edwards got the boxing and the combinations on his side, training with his brother. And I think it's going to make for a good fight.
How about you, Brandon?
I'm looking forward to the Saad Awad fight. That's like the main event of the prelims. Like I said, he's been on a tear. He's been doing his thing. I'm surprised that they're probably not mentioning his name for a title shot for the lightweight strap soon.
Funny enough, the guy he's going against is a guy who just fought in PFL against Chris Wade. So he just lost to Chris Wade. So he's making his transition. And that wasn't even that long ago. So I definitely think Saad's going to probably take it because he's the fresher fighter.
And I was going to say, and that fight against Chris Wade was at 145. So that means the guy's going up a weight class.
I mean, that'll be easier for the weight cuts, but
yeah.
Overall, Bellator's got a pretty good, entertaining card to build up to the Cyborg fight. Cyborg fight might be a bloodbath, but the rest of the card is going to be pretty damn good. So make sure you guys tune in on the 21st. And then as we transition, the last thing we're talking about tonight, the next day, UFC, technically Fight Night 188. We call it UFC Vegas 27, headlined by Rob Font and the returning Cody Garbrandt. Cody's had quite a few fights fall out. He was supposed to fight Figueiredo last year. That ended up working out well for Alex and then later Brandon Moreno. Brandon, who you got in this fight? Rob Font, Cody Garbrandt.
I'm going with Rob Font, man. He's on a tear as well. He's on a streak. And you were talking about no defense earlier. Cody Garbrandt, no defense as well, man. That dude 100%. Gets hits a lot, So I think Rob Font is just going to catch him, put it on him, and he's going to get one step closer to being in title contention.
Yeah, Rob Font beat my boy Ricky Simone too, so definitely on the rise. and the current Bellator champion now. He beat Sergio Pettis just a couple years ago. Who you got, Dan?
This is going to be an interesting fight because Rob Font has the reach advantage, and I think he's going to try and use it. He has a jab, and he specializes in kickboxing. He likes to switch his stance every now and then, but he's not afraid to take people down. But I think Cody's going to try and pressure him early, use his boxing, and like he plays mind games with his fighters. Like he talks shit, whatnot. But his movement is probably his best weapon, like moving around the cage, keep moving. But I think he can tire him down a little bit. And I feel like Rob Font's going to knock him out. I feel like he's going to use that reach each time to get Cody just mad. And when Cody gets mad, he makes mistakes. And I feel like he's going to catch him. I'm going to say a second round knockout by Rob Font.
You think Rob Font's going to win too? You know, you got to give Cody a puncher's chance, right? But the only problem with that is that Rob Font's never been knocked out. His only losses have ever been 3 decisions and 1 sub. The only common opponent they have, ironically, is Asanya, who Cody just knocked out in his return. It's a good feel-good story for Cody Garbrandt to be a former champion, kind of getting his opportunity to come back after 3 tough losses. But they were all knockouts. Cody's always been a knockout or get knocked out fight, and Dan just said it himself. That range that Rob Font has is going to give Cody trouble, and I'm picking Rob Font as well. I just think his kickboxing is better, and I think his movement is better. And I think unless Cody can connect on that haymaker, I think it's just going to be Cody's boxing is better. But if he doesn't have the reach to get in there, it's not going to happen. Over in the co-main event, Carla Esparza versus Jan. Dan, I'll start with you. Who you got in that one?
I got Jan in this one. I think what makes this fight any more competitive is the fact that Jan doesn't have very good takedown defense. You can pretty much easily take her down, and what Esparza does is in her fights is take down, and then she just lays and prays. She doesn't do that much when she takes you down. She just tries to get you down and then control the time. But I love Jan's movement. I love her speed with her striking. She's very quick. She has the mentality that she can last 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds. And I feel like she'll be able to get enough damage, even if she gets taken down 1, maybe 2 times, that she'll be able to pull away with the victory, even though.
Brandon, who you got?
Me and Dan are going to be opposite this time, man. I got my girl Carla Esparza. Been a fan of hers since Invicta. I picked her when it was the tough season. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I didn't pick. She was my second pick because you know me. I'm always number 1 with Joanne Calderwood. But Carla Esparza, been a fan of hers, though, since day one. Going with her, like, again, the only problem with Carla usually is, though, if she can't get the takedown, then she's in trouble. But like Dan said, though, you know, her opponent does, you know, she doesn't have good takedown defense. So to me, Esparza is going to have a field day, taking her down, ground and pound. Now, though, Esparza has been working up on her stand-up because her stand-up did look good in her fight against Claudia Gadelha. So, I mean, it has been improving. But I just think Esparza is just going to take her down and take care of business.
I hate to agree with Brandon. I'm picking Carla too, but I'm picking Carla for this reason. Look at the last 3 wins that Carla has. She wasn't supposed to beat Alexa Grasso. She did. She wasn't supposed to beat Michelle Waterson. She did. She wasn't supposed to beat Marina Rodriguez, who those 2 just had a main event just a couple weeks ago. But she did. Speaking of strikers, Marina's one of the best in that division. And Carla still got the best of her. It was a split decision win, but I thought she won the fight. I didn't even question it. Marina then bounced back with her win against Rebus and now against Waterson. But Carla Esparza at 33 is still getting better. She had a couple tough fights against Tatiana Suarez, who's finally about to make her comeback in September but at a higher weight class. And then she lost that fight that Brandon talked about against Gadelha. Other than that, you have to go back to that fight against Marcos back in 2017. She's been on a 4-fight winning streak, and I think she's actually the more well-rounded fighter, and people just don't give her enough credit against Jan. So I'm actually picking Carla Esparza in this one as well. Dan, you are our guest every week. We pick one other fight on the card to talk about and make one pick for. You're our guest. The floor is yours. I'll give you the first pick.
I'm looking forward to the David Dvorak, Raleigh, and Paiva fight just for the fact that with how good Dvorak has looked of late, he's really good with his leg kicks, and he usually sets all of his shots up well. Like he's calculated. He kind of knows what he's going to do before he does it. That's the type of fighter he is. He's quick. I love the way he uses the calf kicks. I think that's going to work well with the guy that's usually stationary like Paiva. But he's going to have to watch out for Paiva. Even though he's usually stationary, he's aggressive. And then he usually has the reach and height advantage on his side. So that's going to be an advantage for him. I still have Dvorak winning it by decision, but I feel like he's got to watch out because if he makes one mistake, Paiva will be able to knock him out.
Paiva's tough. People, he lost to Bontorin, who we just talked about this last weekend, but that was because of a cut. And then he lost a tough split decision against Kaya Kara France. So he's fought some tough guys. And Dvorak, while he has one of the greatest nicknames in MMA, The Undertaker, I don't know how a 125-pound man can call himself The Undertaker, but but he's another tough guy. So both guys have similar records. So that's going to be a fun fight. Brandon, who's your pick of the night?
I'm gonna go with the Algio Ramos fight, or Ricardo Ramos.
Sticking with the regional guy.
Yeah, man, I've seen Algio fight, a few times locally. He's actually fought a couple of teammates of mine, one in kickboxing, one in MMA. So, I'm always down to see local guys thrive in the UFC. So I just think, man, Algio is he's big for 145. I think he's my height, 6'1". So he's a tall, lanky guy. I think he definitely has the reach. He has good submissions. So I just think he's going to be too much. I could maybe see a finish, but I'm most likely thinking it goes decision for Algio.
Yeah, Algio bounced back after that loss to Lamas and got that win against Spike Carlisle. That was a fun fight last November. He's always a popular favorite, good friend of Sergio. So Sergio would always hype him up on the show. Ramos is tough. He lost that fight to Murphy. He got knocked out in the first round, but he had a couple other wins in UFC before that. And then before that, he lost to one of the Nurmagomedov guys. So, he's a tough guy. Should be a fun fight. I think Algio's probably got the upper hand just of his experience in that fight as well. My fight pick of the night is a fight that got pushed back a week. Neither one of the guys got COVID, but I believe somebody in Hermansson's camp tested positive for COVID. So they had to push it back a week. It made this car a little bit stronger. But Jack Hermansson versus Edmund Shabazian. I'm actually going to take Shabazian in this one. Hermansson, he's been on a highs and lows type situation. He's rising up the food chain. Then he loses to Cannonier. Then he knocks off Gastelum. Then he loses Vittori. Shabazian, he's got that one loss to Derek Brunson where he got caught in that third round. But other than that, he beat a very tough Brad Tavares. Everybody knows I'm a Tavares fan. Very tough Brad Tavares. Beat Marshman and Charles Bird, who are both tough guys. He stopped both those guys in the first round. I think if Shabazian is you never know when we said this about Dominic Reyes. You don't know when somebody gets knocked out how they're going to come back. It could be like nothing ever happened and they're just fine, or they could be scared to get hit, right? They could be scared to get engaged because they don't want to get knocked out again. We don't know how Shabazian is going to come around after that knockout against Derek Brunson. But that said, I am going to pick Shabazian in this fight. You guys got any thoughts on that one?
For him, I would just watch out. He has a track record of after the first round, he starts getting very tired in his fights. He puts a lot of weight in the first round. So anytime it gets past that point, he starts to dwindle his gas tank. So I feel like if for him to win, he needs to do something big early. And then luckily, because it's only 3 rounds, if he could get that first round, he can probably coast the second round and then come back strong the third round.
Yeah. Brandon, you got any thoughts? I know Jack Hermansson has a chance to finish him quick. Jack Hermansson has a bunch of big victories, but I don't know. I really think Shabazian has the edge in this one because of his quickness, but go ahead.
I like Hermansson. I'm a fan of his, but the thing is though, man, Shabazian, like you said, is quick, and plus two, he can finish you standing up. Hermansson is a guy where he can finish you, but it has to be on the ground. So to me, if Hermansson can't get the fight to the ground, he's going to be in trouble, and he could get finished.
All right, guys, a couple other fights on that card. Ben Rothwell's making his return. His fight's been pushed around a couple times. He's gotten different opponents. Linz is out. Barnett is in. Felicia Spencer, which might actually be against Norma Dumont, might be the final featherweight fight in the UFC featherweight division. We'll see how that plays out. At this way, Kayla Harrison's talking her way into the UFC at this point. So we'll see. Justin Tafa versus Verdana is going to be a tough fight. Claudia Silva, Court McGee is going to be a tough fight. Bruno Silva. And a couple other Yancy Medeiros is back. He's fighting in the early prelims. So some good fights to take advantage of this weekend on a free card. I believe it's going to be on ESPN Plus this weekend. So something to check out. You guys got anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here today? Dan, you're our guest. You want to tell people how to find you? Talk more about Cage My IQ real quick.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Cage IQ. Then you can find us on Instagram at Cage My IQ. And then the same thing with YouTube. Yeah, it's at Cage My IQ. But we're just a MMA podcast, just like yourself. We're usually live Mondays at 8:30 on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. And then I put out a lot of content just by myself for the Cage My IQ. I do like small 10, 15 minute preview and recap videos for PFL, Bellator, and then one championship. And then I do a lot of interviews. I just interviewed Brian Barberina yesterday. A couple of days ago, I did Stamp Vertex of one. And then I got one scheduled with Denise Boombaza of one a little bit next week when she lands in Singapore. So I have fun with
Awesome.
that.
Yeah, no, you got some great interviews up on there. We were just talking about the one you did with Julio Arce, and you constantly keep getting some great interviews. So definitely something to check out. Cage My IQ. Of course, all the links will be in the show notes. Brandon, anything else you want to talk about today?
No, just everybody remember, just go artofmma.com/shop, order some shirts, order some hoodies,
Promo code
order
above.
something. Remember, I have the link in my bio on Twitter and on Instagram. So in case you forget it, you can just always go to my bio. The link is right there. That's what I have down. So you guys can just go there and order.
Yeah, guys, artofmma.com/shop is the best way to support this show. We don't have advertisement. YouTube won't let us yet because we're not big boys. But we're working our way up, and with your support, we keep growing. We love your comments. Make sure you drop a comment below, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on the website, whether it's on Twitter, wherever you can find us, Instagram. Drop a comment. Dan will tell you himself. We go back and forth. We engage on each other's shows. It makes the conversation more fun. We love doing these shows, but we only do them for you. We could sit there offline and chat as much as we want, but we try to bring you some information, some stuff. Once in a while, we'll do some interviews as well. But I want to thank Dan for coming on our show. Hopefully we can have him back on more often, do a little cross promotion here and there. And make sure you check out Cage My IQ. It's a great show. I love the interviews on there. He goes a little more detailed than we do in some of these fight breakdowns. So if you want the more analytic view, Tim Wheaton last week, Dan Bakley this week, these guys break down these fights. They go way in depth, more than me and Brandon do. Me and Brandon like to have a little fun with it and do like a little bit more entertainment style show. But we do give you the information and we appreciate it. So leave a like, subscribe if you like what we do, and leave a comment and tell you what it's like, what you don't like. The question of the day, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the comments. What's next for Oliveira? Who's next? Is it McGregor Poirier? Is it somebody else like Dariush? Let us know in the comments. Other than that, for Dan, for Brandon, and myself, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. We're out.